There is simply no question that the biggest story in the world on Tuesday was President Trump's controversial decision to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal. It upset a number of major U.S. allies. Lots of people in Congress popped off about it. The media sentiment was largely against the president. The argument being that Iran was complying with the terms of the Obama agreement. Barack Obama himself rebuked the president, and yet the president had promised this during the campaign. So it was a very big deal that raises all sorts of questions about will Iran try now to return to its nuclear program? Will U.S. sanctions work and all of that? But when you tuned in on prime time Tuesday to CNN and MSNBC, the lead story almost every hour was about Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti. Now, I'm not saying that the development on that front, which we'll get to in a second, isn't newsworthy, but really is the fixation on all things Russia / Stormy / Cohen almost so complete, or the media so invested in that, that they simply push down a story of the geopolitical importance of pulling out of the Iran nuclear agreement, which was the lead story, by the way, the next day's New York Times and Washington Post. So what happened was that Avenatti, who has a knack for, just sort of driving the media agenda, put out some documents, and then the New York Times and others later said they confirmed them, showing that Michael Cohen, the president's personal lawyer, the guy who, paid the $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, the guy who was reimbursed by a monthly retainer from Donald Trump, had gotten $500,000 or thereabouts from a company affiliated with Viktor Vekselberg, a Russian oligarch. I guess only in Russia can you be an oligarch, with ties to Putin. This guy's been banned from the United States. And so what was that money for? Now, some made the leap that, well, somehow the Russian money, if that's what you want to call it, was being used to subsidize things like the Stormy payment. No evidence of that yet. There was also lots of other money that Michael Cohen got through this shell company set up from AT&T, Novartis, major American companies. And by the way, for all the hyperventilating about that, it is what it looks like. You see this in every administration. People who are close to a president, former administration officials, get money for, quote, strategic consulting or advice or insights. And what they're doing is, they're peddling their influence with the President of the United States or other top officials. That doesn't strike me as that unusual. We don't know what that money was for, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the media go crazy about this, and I saw a couple of pundits on the air saying, well, boy, Michael Avenatti, he really hijacked the story. He made the story not to be about Iran, but to be about all of this. Well, actually, Avenatti, who's a bit of a publicity hound, is doing his job as a lawyer. It's the journalists, it's the anchors, it's the producers, it's the media that make the decision that this, in that moment, is more important than Iran. And I think that's a kind of an indefensible argument. Now, it could be that this is kind of a convergence of the Mueller investigation on Russia matters and the Stormy case and the lawsuit there. So potentially it could be important. Avenatti, by the way, I think has gotten a little, what he does was he releases this, then he shows up on Anderson Cooper on Tuesday night. He shows up on Lawrence O'Donnell. He shows up with Don Lemon. He says, hey, I got this story, but the New York Times, here's a shout out. They just confirmed what I put out. So there's sort of this circular nature to it. Then yesterday morning, he was on Morning Joe, Good Morning America, CNN's New Day. I mean, this guy is part of the program. He's even mused about getting his own show when this case is over. Well, I think he's become a little sensitive about that because Avenatti he told Anderson Cooper, there's been some criticism about our media strategy, how often I'm on CNN, your show, other networks. It's a bunch of nonsense, says Avenatti, because here's the bottom line, Anderson, it's working, okay? It is working in spades. He says that people see him on the air and then they provide him with information. Well, look, he's entitled to go on TV as much as he wants. Why these shows book him almost daily, even when he's got nothing new, is complete mystery to me. But let's not blame it on the lawyer. It's journalists who decide to book him all the time. It's journalists who decide that this is the most important story in the world, despite the fact that we're going to be dealing for some time to come with the repercussions from President Trump's decision on Iran.